Alrighty. Hey everybody that's joining. Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. A couple more people I'm waiting on. This is going to be spa week, I think. So yesterday we did the spiral scrubby. And good morning, Cindy. How are you this morning? And everybody else, I'm just going to jump in and start because some of you have already seen this part of it. Okay, so I'm making a soap cozy this morning. So yesterday we did the spiral scrub. I'm good. Yesterday we did the spiral scrubby. Today we're doing a soap cozy. So I thought I had a brand new bar of soap, but I don't. So what I did to start this was I chained 10 because 10 kind of gave me, good morning, Tony. 10 kind of gave me the width that I wanted for my soap cozy. So I chained 10 and then I did my single crochet in the top loops around. I didn't do any increases at the end, and then I single crocheted my 10 back around that chain, so it gave me 20 stitches total. So you can see in the center there where I just single crocheted my 10 across the top loops and my 10 across the bottom loops. It gave me 20 stitches. I did not join my stitches. I just put a stitch marker in it, and I kept going around, and I did another 20 stitches. So now I have 2 rounds of 20 stitches. If you have a square bar soap that's longer, you would just simply chain a couple more so that it would fit around that bar of soap. So that's how you would make that bigger. So now that I have done my second round, this is going to be like the bottom of it. So I'm going to, just to kind of give it a little bit of definition, I joined. I'm going to chain 1, and now working in the front loops, only, I'm going to single crochet around again just the same 20. So just in the front loops. I'm going to leave that back loop. So I'm going to just, and it'll just give us a little bit of definition. You'll see after I get a few stitches done, and I'm just going around my 20 stitches again, and this is going to start cinching it up so that it starts looking like a container, like something that will hold your soap. So after I've done those few stitches, you can see, because I'm only working in the loop that's on the inside, the loop that's on the outside is kind of giving me a definition there, if that makes sense. It's kind of like giving me like a base. So I guess essentially, did I chain? Nope, I kept going. Same direction. So I'm going to just keep going all the way around, working in those front loops. So from where I'm working, the way I'm working around, you can see my front loops. I'm just going into that front loop. I should get a smaller hook to show. I'm just going into this front loop right here. So not into this back loop, just that front loop. And I'm just going to keep going my 20 stitches around. The only time I really join my rounds is when I'm going to switch things up. So I joined this round because I wasn't going to keep going around in both loops. I was going to change to going around in just one loop. So now when I get to my 20 stitches, which I might, I have to count them because I didn't put my stitch marker in. 9, 10, 11, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay. Is that right? Yes, that's right. Because I'm going to have where I slip stitched and where I chained one, so I don't want to count those. I don't want to count those as stitches, which is why I would have typically marked my so I'm going to slip stitch again. So this is what I have so far. So far I have a cozy that kind of looks like there's a bottom to it because I just worked through those loops. Now I want this to be the right side, and the way that I'm crocheting right now, it's the wrong side. So now that I've joined my round, I am going to chain 3. I'm going to chain one more, so that's 4. So that's going to be like a double crochet and a chain 1. And I'm going to turn my work so I'm working with that lip now on the outside, on the right side. And I'm going to skip that because I'm counting this as my first double crochet. So I'm going to skip that first stitch. I'm going to skip the second stitch. That was my chain 1. So my double and my chain 1. So my first stitch is the double that I did. The 4th chain is the stitch that I'm going to skip, and in the next stitch I'm going to work a double. So my double would be yarn over, through my stitch, yarn over, pull through my stitch, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. So now I'm starting almost like an eyelet row. You can do those with double crochets, or you can do them with half double crochets. I kind of like to do the soap cozies with double crochets. So now again, I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to skip 1. So this is where I stitched. I'm going to skip 1, and I'm going to double crochet in the next one. So I'm going to yarn over and put it into my stitch. Yarn over, pull it through my stitch. Yarn over, pull it through 2 loops. Yarn over and pull it through 2 loops. So now I have 2 eyelets there. And I'm going to keep going all the way around. Chain 1, skip 1, double crochet. Now I'm working, you're seeing what's the inside of the cozy. If you turned your row, this is the outside of your cozy. So the bottom, these are the wrong side of your stitches, so that we got that lip on the bottom. I don't know if you can really see it all that well, but it kind of gives you a lip on the bottom. You don't have to do that. You can just simply do your single crochets and then start your eyelet rounds. And it still does pretty much the same thing. It still gives you the container or the bag shape that we want. So I'm just going to work all the way around. And I'm going to chain 1, skip 1, and double crochet. Chain 1, skip 1, and double crochet. Chain 1, skip 1, and double crochet. Chain 1, skip 1, double crochet. Chain 1, skip 1, and let me see. So if I had 20 stitches, I should have 10 double crochets because we skipped a stitch in between. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Remember, that's our first one. So if I have 10 double crochets, then I'm just going to chain one, and I'm going to join it to that top of that starting chain. So this is my 10th double crochet. We counted our chain as our double crochet, so I'm going to chain one, which I did. I do have a chain in there. So I did my double crochet and I chained one. I'm going to skip one, and I'm just going to slip stitch to the top, to that third starting chain there, to complete my round. Just slip stitch to complete my round. And I'm going to do that all over again. I'm going to chain 3 for my first double crochet. I'm going to chain 1 for my chain 1. I am going to skip my chain 1 space, and I'm going to double crochet into the top of my double crochet. And I'm going to do that all the way around. Chain 1, double crochet into my double crochet. So looking at it this way, this is what you're starting to get. And you're just going to work almost all the way up to the top of that bar of the soap. So if I stuck my bar of soap in there, and it's okay if it's a little bit big, because for one, this is cotton. So if I have a bigger bar of soap, a bigger bar of soap will then fit in here. Or if I, cotton, when you dry it, shrinks a little bit until you stretch it out a little bit again. So I'm just going to keep working up. So I might need maybe 3 or 4 rows like that, and I'm just going to continue doing the same thing. I'm going to chain 1, skip my space, and double crochet right in the top of my double crochet. I'm going to chain 1, skip my space, double crochet in the top of my double crochet. And I'm just going to keep going around like that. And when I get to the last one, that's my double crochet in my last one, that's my space, and there's the chain that I started. I'm just going to come up here and I'm going to slip stitch into that third starting chain up here at the top, which completes that last block there. I had to do easy and simple this week. And now after that I've slip stitched, and that's what I've got so far, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to chain my 3 for my first double crochet. I'm going to chain 1 for my first space that I'm going to skip, and I'm going to double crochet in the first stitch, in the next stitch, I should say. And I'm going to work that around. I know sometimes I need simple and easy. I have so many projects that I have half started that I really want to finish this week. And next week's going to be busy again because it's graduation. So there will be company again. And I'm just working this around. Same as I did the last 2 rows. when I get to the end, to the last one, I'm just going to chain my one and join my round to that third one with a slip stitch. Now you can try this if you want to, or you can just kind of keep working up to where you think it might work. But I'm going to do probably one more row. I think I'm going to do one more row, and then I'm going to finish that off, because I'm sure this bar of soap was bigger when they first opened it. So I'm going to chain my 3, chain my 1, which gives me 4 total, which is my double crochet in my chain 1 space, double crochet into my second double crochet into the next double crochet, I should say, chain 1, and just keep going. If you make your chain 1s too tight, this will end up being tighter than this, and that's okay. You're just going to use it as a, or you can take it apart and you can make the bottom tighter, or you can loosen up the top, however you want your tension to be. And then when I get to the end, I am again going to slip stitch in the 3rd chain there. And then I think I'm going to start my top, because that'll give me enough mesh to hold that soap. Here's my soap. If it's not, and you want it bigger, just add more rows up. If you've made it longer because you have a square bar of soap and you need it to come up further, just do a couple more rows until it's about to the top. Next, we are going to chain 1 for some height there, and into that first double crochet we're going to single crochet into the next space. We are going to single crochet into the next double. We're going to single crochet. So we should again have 20 stitches, 20 single crochets all the way around. So far I've got 3. That's 1 in every double crochet and 1 single crochet in every chain 1 space. So a single crochet, a single crochet, a single crochet, a single crochet. If you work around, you'll just have your same stitch count that you started with on the bottom. And I'm just going all the way around. I started with 10, a chain of 10, which gave me 20 single crochets. So by the time I'm done with this part, I should have 20 single crochets. And I started my first stitch in a double crochet, so I want to end my last stitch in my space, and that should actually give me my 20 stitches. Again, however many stitches you started with, that's how many you should have at this point. So if you started with a chain of 10, you had 20 stitches to start with. And you guys all know about my tension. That's what it should look like. So, and I have 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 20. I have 20 stitches around. I am going to just, I'm not going to join them at this point because I'm going to just keep working my single crochets around. So I'm just going to single crochet in that first single crochet, and I'm going to mark it with a stitch marker. So I'm going to work in a spiral. Now what I want to do is I want to look at my piece and decide which which part is like the center part that I want to put almost like a buttonhole. So I've got these 2 stitches here that look like they're mostly in the center. So these 2 stitches here look like they're mostly in the center, right here. 1, 2. So those I kind of want my buttonhole to be. So I'm going to count backwards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I know I have to do 5 more stitches before I skip them. So I'm going to skip these 2 in the center. So you can mark them with your stitch markers, which here they are. So these are going to be the 2 that I'm going to use as like my sort of a buttonhole. I'll show you. So those are going to be my 2 stitches that I'm going to use as my sort of buttonhole. And I'm not going to do math with this. I'm just going to get a guess because it's not that big and it's okay. If I look where I have my 2 for my buttonhole, on the back I have kind of 1 stitch that kind of falls in between there if I'm holding it like this. I kind of have 1 stitch that falls in the center there. I'm going to mark that stitch as well. And you'll see why, and you'll see how much easier this actually is. So not counting my first stitch, I have 2 stitches marked that I'm going to skip for a buttonhole, and I have 1 stitch marked that I'm going to use as my stitch for my loop. So now that I've marked those 3 stitches, I'm going to single crochet to the front where I have my 2 stitches marked. Those are the stitches that I want to skip. So I'm going to chain 2 and skip those 2 stitches. And then I'm going to keep single crocheting all the way around until I get to the 1 stitch that I marked in the back. So you can see the 2 stitches that I marked kind of leave a loop, right? And then I'm going to single crochet to the center back stitch that I have marked, which should be just opposite that loop. When I get to that center back stitch, I am going to single crochet into it. And now I'm going to chain for my loops. And this is totally up to you, how big it is. So if I chain 20, I can't talk with my hook in my mouth. So if I chain 20, that gives me enough that if I tuck it through this loop, so if I take this from the back and tuck it through the buttonhole in the front, that gives me enough to like maybe hang it on a hook. If I wanted it bigger to maybe put my hand through it, I would chain more than that. If I wanted it less, I could chain less than that. If I wanted it really long, I can chain it really long. But that's kind of what we're going to do with that. So I'll maybe put 5 more stitches on there. I did 10 there, and they're just chains, or I did 20 there. 22, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. So I'll do 30. Without turning your chain. So making sure your chain doesn't twist. You're going to come down here, and I know I'm going to twist it just to show you, but I'll do it the right way. So you're going to take your chain and you're going to come down here into the same single crochet, and you're going to close it like a peacock. I don't know if you recall me talking about things like that, but I'm going to go down through the first loop, that front loop there, and just this bar on the outer side of my single crochet, and then I'm going to yarn over. I'm going to yarn over, and I'm going to pull through all 3 of those loops, and that's going to close my chain as like a loop. And I know I had everything twisted there. But that's the gist of it. You're going to make sure that chain doesn't twist, and then you're going to close it like a peacock. Picot, however you want to pronounce it. So I'm going to make sure I'm not twisted here, because I always feel a little bit twisted. Because I am going to go around this one more time and close it. And then I have a couple of more stitches. I have 2 more stitches until I get to the beginning of my round. So I'm just going to do my 2 more stitches. I am going to take this beginning stitch marker out because I don't really need it. I'm going to take these 2 stitch markers out because I don't really need them anymore. I already took the one out in the back. So far we have where our soap goes. I'm not paying attention again. Cindy's answering my questions for me. Thank you so much, Cindy. So you have so far your soap cozy. I don't have it in there perfect, but you have your soap cozy. You have your buttonhole on the front. You have your loop on the back. When you put your loop through your buttonhole, you have your little bag that holds your soap. So I'm going to finish this round off. You can finish it off with single crochet and picots if you want, or I'm just going to finish it off with, and I'll leave my soap in there, I'm just going to finish it off with single crochets. So I'm going to just single crochet all the way around. You could do like a chain 1 picot, which kind of makes it chain 1, and then join it like you just joined it. It gives you like a little bump there, and then another single crochet, and then another chain 1. I'll show you that picot. So it kind of makes it like, you know, it's my favorite edging there. Kind of gives you like a little scalloped edge, sort of, without adding too much bulk to it. So I am gonna do that. And I started that on the side there because when you work in spirals, and I know I've said this before, when you work in spirals, your stitches tend to shift where your first stitch is. It will tend to go up diagonally. So I'm not going to worry about this last round. I'm just going to use the very side edge as my guide to where I'm starting and finishing. So I'm going to work all the way around doing my single crochet, 1 single crochet, and then the next single crochet, chain one, and the same way that you close that loop, you're going to come down through that stitch, come down through that first bar, you're going to yarn over, and you're going to pull through all three of those loops, and then you're just going to slip stitch into the next stitch. Or single crochet into the next stitch. So you close it just the same, you close that chain one the same way you close this chain here, just through that front loop and that last bar there. Now when I get to this little buttonhole thing in the front, I'm just going to work right over top of this. So this was my single crochet. So the first one that I do in here is going to be a single crochet and a picot. The next one's just going to be a plain single crochet, and then I'm going to keep going around. So just keep your pattern going. One single crochet with your picot and one plain single crochet. And then going into your very next single crochet, you just start to keep going around. So I'm just going all the way around, and that's where my buttonhole was. And you can see I just worked right over top of those two stitches instead of in those two stitches. And I'm going to keep working that single crochet with a chain one picot, and then a plain single crochet, the single crochet with the chain one picot, and then my plain single crochet. And I'm just going to work that all the way around until I get to my chain loop, my long chain loop. So I'm just working away, I'm working around. I have sold these at markets, and I usually leave the soap in the box or in the wrapping, in the paper. Like I would buy soap that was in paper. Like I don't know, it's wrapped instead of like in the box. That way it kind of fits a little bit better. And I'm just going to keep going around. I'm almost at my chain loop. Okay, so when I get to my chain loop, I am simply going to slip stitch all the way up and all the way down that chain loop. And it doesn't matter, however you like it. Whether you want to go into two loops, whether you want to go into one loop, however you want to slip stitch into it, just slip stitch all the way up and all the way down. And your slip stitch, again, these are just all American terms. All American terms, US standard terms, is going to be insert your hook and then pull it through both loops. It'll be easier to do without the soap in there because it won't be so heavy. So my slip stitch is going to be insert into my stitch, yarn over. So I insert it into my stitch, yarn over. I'm going to pull through the stitch and through the loop, just pull everything at once, and then go to my next stitch and insert my hook into my stitch, yarn over, and pull through everything on the loop. And I'm just going to go all the way up and around there like that. You just have to make sure that your slip stitch is the same size as your stitch, because if you make your slip stitch too big, it'll curl. If you make it too small, it'll curl. So you kind of have to pull your slip stitch about the same size as your stitch that you're doing, and that's the trick to that. There are some times when you do want it to curl. I know some of like the jellyfish patterns, they'll do the slip stitches and then they'll work their way back with a really tight slip stitch, which gives it like a curl to it. But we don't really want this to curl, so we want to make sure that our slip stitch is the same size as our chain stitch. And I'm just going to go all the way around. And I did start trying some of my glue for my kitten eyes. Although one says it has to cure for 7 to 10 days before you should wash it. So that TikTok video is going to be on hold until I can manage to get my 7 days there so I can wash my swatch. So again, I'm just doing my slip stitch all the way down my, somehow I twisted that. If you twist it, I wouldn't worry about it. I would just kind of twist it back. Just make sure you pull your stitch up right. You can see I had it twisted there, but if you just kind of like, you really can't notice if you just make sure you pull your stitches the same length. Wouldn't be the first time I've twisted a chain. So working all the way down. I'm almost there. Almost there. Getting that last one. So you're going all the way down. And then I am going to skip the one that we put our chains into. And then I'm just going to, or not, I mean it doesn't really matter honestly. Because once you put it together, it's going to look fine. Play with your stitches. I say that all the time. Play with your stitches. If it looks better in a different spot, put it in a different spot. And I think maybe one last picot here on the edge. So I have all the way around. And I kind of want to finish this one off so that I don't see the knot. So I'm going to leave this loop here. I'm going to slip stitch to the next stitch. So I just put my slip stitch in the next stitch after I did my last stitch there. And I'm going to cut this off a little bit longer. And I'm going to pull this loop up. And this is not a good thing. I bought a new package of needles. So my brain just went, oh, you have needles. It's okay if you sit it down and forget where it is. Well, now I'm down to my last needle again. I need to stop that. Okay, so to finish this off with like an invisible finish, I want to knot it on the inside. So I want to knot it on the inside and not have the knot sitting on top of my work so that you really can't see it. So I'm going to take this is the next stitch, and I'm going to put it through that stitch, around the back, to where I'm going to like go over top of this stitch. So I went over top, through where it comes out. I'm going to go around the back, and I'm going to go right into that same hole. And when I go right into that same hole, I'm going to push my needle to the wrong side of my work. So now when I look, I took to like make like a fake stitch over top of the stitch. So this is the stitch that I wanted to make the fake stitch over top of. So I just went into the same place that stitch went into. I came out the same place that stitch went out of, and I went back down into there where that same stitch went into. And then I just threaded it through to the back, and when you pull it, it makes it look like you just made like a pretend stitch over top of it. And then I can knot it somewhere back here on the inside of my work, and you don't see the knot, and then you can just weave it through. Which is what I'm going to do. And you can either chain 2, or you can actually tie some sort of knot. Sometimes I'll slip a hook in there and I'll just chain 2. Sometimes I will slip it under a strand and pull up a loop. Put my needle through that loop. Pull that first loop tight. Put my needle through the second loop and just pull the whole thing tight. You can do it that way too. So now I have my knot is on the inside. My fake stitches are on the outside, so you don't really see where your knot is, and then I'm just going to weave in the end there. For something like this, I would definitely weave back and forth. So I would weave over about 5 or 6 stitches, or through 5 or 6 stitches, one in one direction, or however you want to weave them. And then once you've woven them in one direction, it's coming out this way, I would catch a thread, if you're not going to glue it, and we are going to use this to wash, and I don't know why it won't focus. There it goes. We are just kind of going to catch a thread, any thread, just so there's something in between there and we don't pull it out the same way. And then you're just kind of going to weave back down the same way you came and try to catch that thread that you just wove in. Because if you can weave and kind of catch that thread at the same time you're weaving, you're going to almost like tangle it to the point where it can't come out. And I'm going to cut my ends. I wove in the end at the bottom. And yes, we're not talking about my tension today, so I'm just stretching it. So this is what I have. I have the buttonhole part on the front where I'm going to put the loop through. I have the loop that will fit around my wrist if I want to keep it on my wrist, and it does fit. My bar of soap. That you can use right in the bag, which is one of the reasons when we get the holes there. You can just use the soap right in the bag and then just hang it. So now we have 2 pieces for like little spa stats. Maybe tomorrow we'll work on a washcloth. Thanks, Janie. I'm glad you guys like that. So now I have 2 pieces to my spa set. And I think tomorrow we'll work on a washcloth, and Maybe the day after that we'll work on a little bag to put it all in. Works for me. You are welcome, Kathy. And again, you can make this however you want it. If you want to put square soap in it, you just make your chains a little bit bigger when you start. If you want to, you put your soap in sideways instead of this way. If you want your soap to go in sideways, you would then just start your chain this way and then just work your couple up and then just work this part of it across the top. I mean, you can do it any way. You missed the scrubby? That's okay, Deidre. The scrubby, if you go to my YouTube channel, I'm going back there right now because I never got a chance to upload that because my husband was home yesterday, so I never got a chance to upload the scrubby one. How did I start it? I started with a chain, and I chained 10 because I figured we're not like paying attention to my tension there. I started with a chain 10, and then I single crocheted 10. I did not add any stitches. I came back along the other side of the chain and single crocheted 10, and then I single crocheted another 20 stitches all the way around. I did not increase any. And then I worked one round in the front loops only to give me that kind of like that little edge. Same 20 stitches, and then I chained my 3, 4, and I turned so that I was now working in the opposite direction, so this would be the right side instead of the wrong side, and just kept going around, double crochet, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet, and I just did that to the height of my soap. And then I worked a single crochet in each space and in each double crochet, which still gives me the 20 around. Gave me the 20 around. I marked my front 2 stitches and my back middle stitch. And over the front 2 stitches, I chained 2. Over the back middle stitch, I just chained as many as I wanted, whether I wanted it long enough to put my wrist in it or just long enough to hang it. And then I finished that round. And then all the way around, you can just single crochet if you want. Or I did a single crochet and a single crochet picot. And I just worked over that chain, and then I just did a slip stitch in each one of these. And this is cotton yarn. This is I love this cotton, and I think it's one of the painted colors maybe. This is of course I have to be a little bit silly. This is actually the remnants of what I had left after I made my hat. So I'm still using that same ball of yarn, which got me pretty far. So, the hat, my bucket hat, matches my spa set because it's all from the same skein of cotton yarn there. So there you go. I mean, and you can take it even further. Like I just put this on and my brain just keeps going, right? My brain goes, oh, but what if you did your bucket hat and put some eyelets at the bottom so you could use your bucket hat as like your bag for your stuff? I know. All the crazy things that go through my brain. Anyway, on that note, that's Spa Week. I have part 1 and 2. The hat doesn't count. The hat is a different tutorial. This hat is actually a tutorial, and that is already up on my Nifty Knot site. I am going back there right now to upload the spiral scrubby tutorial to my playlist / podcast, whatever YouTube wants to call it. And as soon as TikTok is done processing this live video, I'm going to put the soap cozy up there as part 2 of Spa Week. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Yeah, jump on over. It might cost you to subscribe here, but it does not cost you to subscribe there. That is my at Nifty Knots, and that is the playlist / podcast that all of my tutorials are on. And I hope you guys all enjoyed it. And I guess I will talk to you guys all later or tomorrow. Thank you.